The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of three suns. Inside, thousands of alien representatives sat in rising tiers, their quiet whispers filling the air with tension. Earth's ambassador, James Miller, stood alone at the center of the chamber, his gray suit a stark contrast to the colorful robes of the alien delegates. High Counselor Reed, tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms, looked down at Miller from his elevated platform. His silver eyes narrowed as he read from the glowing screen before him. The silence in the chamber grew heavier with each passing moment. The Galactic Council has reviewed Earth's application for membership, Reed announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Our decision is final. Earth's application is denied. Miller's face remained perfectly calm, though his fingers tightened slightly on the podium before him. May I ask the reason for this denial, High Counselor? A small smile played across Reed's face. Certainly. The Council finds that humanity is inadequate for membership. Your species has barely managed to leave its gravity well. You still fight among yourselves. Your technology is primitive at best. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Some delegates didn't even try to hide their amusement, pointing at Miller and whispering to their neighbors. I see, Miller replied, his voice steady. And this is the Council's final word. Indeed. Reed leaned forward, all 4 hands clasped together. Let me be clear, Ambassador. Your species is little more than a group of primitive apes playing with technology you barely understand. The Council recommends that humanity focus on its own development for the next few centuries before attempting to join galactic society. More laughter filled the chamber. A delegate from the 3rd tier shouted, Go back to your trees, human. Miller stood straight, his eyes scanning the chamber. He took in every face, every smirk, every gesture of dismissal. His expression remained neutral, but those closest to him noticed something dangerous flash in his eyes. Thank you for your time, High Counselor, Miller said quietly. He turned and walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. After the human left, Reed turned to his fellow council members. Now, to more important matters. The human expansion must be contained. They are unpredictable and potentially dangerous, even in their primitive state. In a private chamber behind the main hall, 12 of the most powerful council members gathered. They sat around a floating table, their faces illuminated by soft blue light. The humans must be kept in check, Reed declared. We've all seen what happens when violent species gain too much power too quickly. An elder member nodded, her tentacles waving gently. Agreed. Their development must be guided. For their own good, of course. Of course, Reed smiled. We'll start by restricting their trade routes, then limit their access to certain technologies. Small steps, nothing too obvious. They'll never notice until it's too late. Meanwhile, Ambassador Miller sat alone in his ship, preparing for the journey back to Earth. He activated his communication device and waited for the secure connection. Mr. President, he said softly, it went exactly as we expected. They took the bait completely. He paused, listening to the response. Yes, sir. They think we're primitive and harmless. Operation Shadow Screen can proceed as planned. Miller looked out at the glittering council city through his viewport. They'll never see it coming. As his ship lifted off, Miller thought about the arrogant faces in the council chamber. They had no idea that humanity had already surpassed many of their technological achievements. They didn't know about the quantum laboratories hidden in Earth's mountains, or the fleet of advanced ships waiting in dimensional pocket space. The council thought they were dealing with primitive apes. Soon, they would learn just how wrong they were. Miller smiled as his ship entered hyperspace. Sometimes, the best revenge was letting your enemies think they've won. 3 months after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, the first signs of trouble appeared. A human cargo ship, carrying medical supplies to the colony on Mars, found its usual route blocked by a Council patrol fleet. Your route has been changed for safety reasons, the patrol commander announced through the communication channel. Please use the new approved path, which will only add 7 days to your journey. The human captain simply nodded and turned his ship around. He didn't argue about the vital medicines that would arrive late. He didn't mention the extra fuel costs. He just accepted it quietly and left. This scene repeated itself across human space. Council ships appeared everywhere, always polite, always with safety concerns that just happened to make human travel difficult and expensive. In his luxurious office on the Council homeworld, High Counselor Reed watched the reports with satisfaction. "See how easily they submit," he said to his advisors. "No complaints, no resistance, just quiet acceptance." One of his advisors, General Vale, looked worried. "It seems too easy, sir. The humans aren't even trying to find alternate routes." Reed waved 2 of his forehands dismissively. "Because they can't. Their primitive ships can barely handle standard space travel, let alone find new paths through hyperspace." On the colony world of New Terra, Council forces had become even bolder. Their ships hovered over human settlements, casting shadows over farms and cities. They claimed to be protecting the colonies, but their message was clear. Humans were not welcome in the galaxy. The Council's monthly meeting was filled with congratulations and satisfaction. "The containment of humanity is proceeding perfectly," Reed announced to the Assembly. "They've withdrawn from most space lanes. Their colonies are isolated. Even their homeworld seems to have turned inward." The gathered delegates nodded in approval. None of them noticed the small smile on Ambassador Miller's face as he watched from the visitors' gallery. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a very different meeting was taking place. In a vast underground chamber, President Roberts stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. Red dots showed every location where Council forces had interfered with human ships. "Status report," the President commanded. Admiral Thomas Anderson stepped forward. "Operation Shadow Screen is proceeding exactly as planned, sir. The Council has taken every bit of bait we've offered. They think they're watching us carefully, but they're only seeing what we want them to see." Director Marcus White, head of Earth's Secret Research Division, activated another display. "Our quantum entanglement grid is complete. We've used their harassment as cover to install nodes at every point where they've blocked our ships. They think they're containing us." He smiled. "They're actually helping us build our defense network." In orbit around Earth, hidden by advanced cloaking technology, massive shipyards worked day and night. The ships they built looked nothing like the simple vessels the Council saw in space. These were something entirely new. Captain Lisa Reynolds walked through her new command, the EFS Retribution. The ship was unlike anything humanity had publicly revealed. Its quantum core could generate enough power to run a small planet. Its weapons were generations ahead of anything the Council possessed. "How many ships have we completed?" President Roberts asked. 500 capital ships and 2,000 support vessels," Admiral Anderson replied. "All hidden in dimensional pocket space, waiting for the signal." The President nodded. "And the Council suspects nothing. They're too busy congratulating themselves," Miller said, having just returned from the Council meeting. "They think we're cowering in our colonies, too frightened to even complain about their bullying." "Excellent." The President looked at the assembled leaders of Earth's defense forces. "The Council wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Instead, they're about to learn a very important lesson." Miller's eyes gleamed. Never underestimate a species that survived on a death world. In space, another human ship turned away from a Council blockade. But this time, hidden sensors recorded every detail of the Council's ships. Every piece of data was another weapon in humanity's growing arsenal. The Council thought they were watching humanity. They didn't realize they were the ones being watched. The trap was almost ready to spring. High Counselor Reed stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, the Galactic Will. Around him, the Council's largest fleet ever assembled moved through space in perfect formation. 5,000 ships, each one representing the peak of Council technology, approached the Sol system. "Today we end this little problem once and for all," Reed announced to his commanders. Earth has been given enough time to learn its place. Since they haven't, we'll teach them directly." The fleet commanders nodded in agreement. Their scans showed exactly what they expected. A few primitive human ships quickly fleeing the area, running home to Earth. No defenses, no military response, just what they'd come to expect from the primitive apes. "Send the message," Reed ordered. "Let's be diplomatic about this, at least at first." On Earth, in the underground command center, President Roberts watched the approaching fleet on the main screen. Around him, military and civilian leaders stood calmly, waiting. "They're broadcasting, sir," a communications officer reported. Reed's image appeared on the screen, all four arms clasped behind his back in a pose of authority. "People of Earth, this is High Counselor Reed of the Galactic Council. Your species has shown itself unable to properly integrate into galactic society. We are here to establish direct council control over your system. Resist, and we will be forced to take harsh measures." President Roberts looked at Admiral Anderson. "Are we ready?" The Admiral checked his displays. "The fleet is in position in pocket space. The quantum grid is charged. We're just waiting for them to cross the line." On the Galactic Will, Reed watched with satisfaction as his fleet approached Earth. No response from the humans. Not even a plea for mercy. Pathetic. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "we're passing the orbit of their 6th planet." "Excellent. Prepare to launch the first wave off." The officer's next words died in his throat. Across every ship in the Council fleet, alarms began blaring. Their engines suddenly cut out. Their weapons went dark. Even their artificial gravity flickered. "What's happening?" Reed demanded. "Unknown, sir. Some kind of energy field. It's everywhere. Our faster-than-light drives are completely disabled." In Earth's command center, Captain Lisa Reynolds' voice came through clearly. "Quantum entanglement grid is active, sir. The Council fleet is trapped." President Roberts nodded to Admiral Anderson. "Show them what humanity can really do." Space itself seemed to tear open around the Council fleet. From these dimensional rifts emerged the real human fleet. The ships were sleek, black, and utterly alien to Council eyes. They moved with impossible grace, taking up perfect attack positions around the trapped Council vessels. On the Galactic Will, chaos erupted. "Impossible," Reed shouted. "These ships, they can't be human. Their technology is far beyond." "Sir," his tactical officer screamed. "Their weapons, we've never seen anything like this. Our shields are useless against them." Admiral Anderson's voice boomed across every Council ship's communication system. "This is Admiral Thomas Anderson of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are useless. You are completely at our mercy." Reed's silver eyes widened in shock as he watched a human ship casually slice through one of his heavy cruiser's shields as if they didn't exist. The cruiser itself remained untouched, a demonstration of precision that terrified him more than any show of brute force. "How?" he whispered. "You were primitive. We saw your ships, your technology." Ambassador Miller's face appeared on Reed's screen. "You saw what we wanted you to see, Counselor. Those primitive ships. They were carrying advanced sensors, mapping your capabilities. Those colonies you've been harassing. Each one was installing another node in our quantum grid. Every time you blocked our ships, you helped us test our cloaking technology." The human ships moved in perfect formation, herding the Council fleet into a tight cluster. Their black hulls seemed to absorb light itself, making them look like holes in space. "Welcome," Miller said with a small smile, "to humanity's real technology level. Now shall we discuss the terms of your surrender?" Reed looked out at his mighty fleet, now helpless before ships that shouldn't exist, and realized just how badly he had underestimated humanity. The trap had sprung perfectly. The Council fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by Earth's black ships. Inside the Galactic Will, High Counselor Reed struggled to understand how completely his plans had fallen apart. "Impossible," he muttered, watching the screens showing Earth's advanced vessels. These technologies, quantum entanglement fields, dimensional pocket space, shield-piercing weapons, the Council declared them all too dangerous to develop. Ambassador Miller's image still filled the main screen. That's exactly why we kept them secret. We knew the Council's history of suppressing civilizations that developed too quickly. On the bridge of the EFS Retribution, Captain Lisa Reynolds watched her tactical display with satisfaction. All Council ships are contained within the quantum grid, Admiral. Their weapons and engines remain disabled. Admiral Anderson nodded. Begin the demonstration. One of the Black Earth ships moved forward. Its hull seemed to ripple, and suddenly it split into 4 identical vessels. Another ship simply vanished, reappearing instantly on the other side of the Council fleet. In the Council fleet, panic spread quickly. Officers and crews watched in horror as the humans casually demonstrated technologies they had thought impossible. "Sir," Reed's science officer called out, his voice shaking. "These readings, they've mastered dimensional manipulation, quantum replication, localized teleportation. They're centuries ahead of our best theoretical research." In Earth's underground command center, President Roberts addressed his staff. "Send the data package to all Council ships. Let them see exactly what they've been dealing with." Across the Council fleet, screens came to life with detailed technical information. The humans weren't just showing their power, they were explaining it. Theories, designs, and achievements that the Council had dismissed as impossible filled screen after screen. "While you were busy trying to contain us," Miller explained to Reed, "we were studying everything about you. Your weapons, your shields, your tactics. We found all their weaknesses. But more importantly, we went in directions your scientists were afraid to explore." Director Marcus White stepped into view beside Miller. "You see, Counselor, humans have a rather unique approach to dangerous technologies. We don't ban them, we master them." To demonstrate, White pressed a button. One of Earth's ships created a small, controlled singularity, using it to bend light around another vessel until it became completely invisible. That's beyond dangerous." Reed sputtered, "Playing with the fabric of space itself. You could have destroyed your whole system." "We could have," White agreed. "But we didn't, because while your people were declaring these technologies too dangerous to study, we were developing safety protocols, containment systems, fail-safes. On a dozen nearby Council worlds, hidden sensors suddenly activated. Holographic projections of Earth ships appeared in the skies above major cities. They weren't really there, just sophisticated light shows. But the message was clear: Earth could strike anywhere." Admiral Anderson's voice rang through the Council communication channels. "We could have used these technologies for revenge. We could have struck at your worlds, destroyed your fleet, torn apart your empire. But that's not our way." In the command center, President Roberts smiled. "Now show them what we really want to do with these technologies." The Black Earth ships began to move, but instead of attacking, they started helping. One ship repaired a damaged Council vessel in seconds using quantum reconstruction. Another demonstrated how dimensional pocket space could revolutionize cargo transport. A third showed how controlled singularities could provide nearly unlimited clean energy. "You feared these technologies," Miller said to the stunned Council leaders. "We mastered them. And now we're offering to share them, under proper safety protocols, of course." Reed stared at the displays, watching impossible technologies perform miracles. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why show us all this? Why not just destroy us?" "Because," Miller replied, "humanity doesn't want revenge. We want progress. We want to make the galaxy better. And we're giving you a choice. Continue trying to suppress advancement, or join us in embracing it. What's your answer?" The Council fleet hung in space, their crews watching in awe as Earth's ships continued their display of advanced technology. The choice before them was clear: adapt to a new reality, or become obsolete. Humanity's revenge wasn't destruction. It was illumination. News spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, beings gathered around communication screens, watching recordings of Earth's technological display. The Council's tight control over information crumbled as images of the black ships and their impossible abilities leaked everywhere. In the Proxima system, a Council blockade fleet watched in confusion as their targets simply vanished. The refugee ships they'd been preventing from escaping a war zone disappeared in flashes of blue light, rescued by humanity's quantum tunneling technology. "We're receiving reports from all sectors," announced the Emergency Council Sessions Secretary. "Earth ships are appearing throughout Council space, but they're not attacking. They're helping." High Counselor Reed sat silently in his chamber aboard the still paralyzed Galactic Will, watching the reports flood in. Earth vessels were sharing medical technology with struggling colonies. They were helping stranded ships. They were even cleaning up space debris with their advanced gravity controls. Ambassador Miller stood before the hastily gathered Council representatives, his calm voice carrying across the chamber. For centuries, the Council has claimed that certain technologies were too dangerous to develop, that some species were too primitive to join galactic society. Today, those lies end. On the desert world of Chorus, a farming colony watched in amazement as an Earth ship created a controlled rain system using quantum weather manipulation. Years of drought ended in a day. In the Rigel sector, a mining accident had trapped thousands underground. Council rescue teams estimated weeks to reach them. An Earth vessel arrived, used its dimensional phasing technology, and had everyone safe within hours. Director White's voice came through the galaxy-wide broadcast. "We're releasing the safety protocols and basic principles behind these technologies to every world in Council space. Not the complete designs, those require proper training, but enough for your scientists to understand what's possible." In the Council chamber, angry voices rose. "You can't do this," shouted one delegate. "These technologies belong to Earth. You can't just share them." Miller smiled. "Actually, we can, and we are. But we're also offering something more. Teaching. Earth is establishing technology exchange centers on any world that wants one. We'll help you develop these advances safely." President Roberts addressed the Council through a quantum link. "We remember being called primitive, being told we weren't ready. Now we're proving that no species is primitive. They just need a chance to grow." The effect across the galaxy was immediate. Smaller worlds, long suppressed by Council restrictions, began demanding access to Earth's teaching centers. Colonies that had suffered under Council neglect welcomed human ships with celebration. Admiral Anderson watched from the EF's retribution as more Council ships arrived, not to fight, but to learn. "Status report," he commanded. Captain Reynolds checked her displays. 300 Council worlds have already requested technology exchange centers. 1,000 more applications are coming in. The Council's grip on their member worlds is falling apart. In his private chamber, Reed received an urgent message from the Council's inner circle. The vote was unanimous. The old policies were over. The Council would have to change or lose all authority. On Earth, the leadership gathered to watch the results of their plan. "It worked better than we expected," Miller reported. "By helping instead of destroying, we've completely transformed the political landscape. The Council can't maintain control through fear of dangerous technology anymore." President Roberts nodded. "And the other species, how are they responding?" "Just as we hoped," Director White replied. "They're angry at being held back for so long, but they're channeling that anger into learning. Our teaching centers can barely keep up with the demand." A junior officer rushed in with another update. "Sir, the Galactic Council is calling for an emergency session. They're proposing a complete restructuring of galactic governance. They want Earth to help lead the transition." Miller smiled. They finally understand. Real power isn't about controlling information or suppressing others. It's about helping everyone reach their full potential. Across the galaxy, Earth's black ships continued their work. But now they weren't seen as weapons or threats. They were symbols of hope, of progress, of a future where no species would be called primitive. The Council's age of suppression was ending. The age of advancement had begun, and it all started because they underestimated a primitive species from Earth. 1 month after Earth's revelation, the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber looked very different. The once proud tiers of seats were half empty. Many delegates had resigned, replaced by younger representatives who supported the new changes. High Councilor Reed sat alone in his elevated chair, watching his power crumble. "The motion is on the floor," announced the Chamber Secretary. "The complete dissolution of the current council structure and the establishment of a new galactic federation." Reed's silver eyes scanned the chamber, where once his every word was law. Now former council members chatted openly with Earth representatives, excitedly discussing new technologies and possibilities. On the massive screens surrounding the chamber, reports continued to pour in. The latest showed an Earth ship helping a former council world build its first quantum communications array. Another screen displayed crowds celebrating as their world's first dimensional pocket space station opened. "The vote will now begin," the secretary declared. In Earth's command center, President Roberts watched the proceedings with Admiral Anderson and Director White. Ambassador Miller stood in the council chamber, his calm presence a reminder of how much had changed. "Look at how fast it's happening," Anderson said, pointing to a map showing the spread of Earth's technology centers. 90% of council worlds have already adopted at least one of our technological innovations. "And the best part," Director White added, "they're already improving on our designs. When you free people to innovate, amazing things happen." Back in the council chamber, Reed stood to make his final speech. He paused, all four hands trembling slightly. "I was wrong. We were all wrong. For centuries, the Council claimed to protect the galaxy by restricting technology and controlling development. We called it wisdom, safety, protection." His silver eyes met Miller's. "But Earth showed us the truth. You didn't just develop the technologies we feared. You made them safer, better, and instead of using them for revenge, you shared them freely." On a dozen worlds, people gathered in public squares to watch Reed's speech. Former council enforcers stood side by side with Earth scientists, together teaching crowds how to use new devices that just months ago would have been forbidden. Captain Reynolds, aboard the ESS Retribution, received another batch of requests for assistance. 5 more worlds asking for help setting up quantum grid nodes, she reported. They want to join the new Federation's shared defense network. In the chamber, Reed continued, "The Council's time is over. We failed in our duty. Instead of guiding the galaxy, we held it back. Instead of protecting civilization, we suppressed it." He stepped down from his elevated platform. "I formally surrender all Council authority. Let the new Federation begin." The vote was immediate and overwhelming. Centuries of Council rule ended not with violence, but with thunderous applause. Ambassador Miller stepped forward. "Earth accepts the transition of power, but we don't want to rule. The new Federation will be different. Every species will have an equal voice. Every world will have access to all technologies with proper safety training." President Roberts addressed the chamber through the quantum link. "The age of suppression is over. The age of cooperation begins today." Across the galaxy, the changes were already visible. Former Council warships now carried Earth technicians to help upgrade planetary defense systems. Once secret Council research facilities opened their doors to all species, the boundaries between advanced and primitive worlds disappeared. In Earth's command center, Director White showed the latest statistics. Educational exchange requests are off the charts. Everyone wants to both learn and teach. The combined scientific knowledge of all species is growing exponentially. Admiral Anderson smiled. "And not a single shot fired. Well, except for that one demonstration where we sliced through their shields." "The best revenge," Miller's voice came through as he walked among the celebrating delegates in the chamber, wasn't destruction. It was education, cooperation, progress. Reed approached Miller privately after the session. "You could have destroyed us. Why didn't you?" Miller's answer was simple: because humans don't just want to win. We want everyone to succeed. As the former council chamber emptied, the new Federation was already taking shape. Earth's black ships still patrolled the galaxy, but now they carried teachers instead of warriors, hope instead of fear. The council had fallen, not to humanity's weapons, but to their wisdom. 6 months after the council's dissolution, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The new Galactic Federation headquarters floated in neutral space, a massive station built using Earth's dimensional engineering. Unlike the old council's crystal dome, this building was open to all species, with no elevated platforms or special seats for the powerful. Former High Counselor Reed walked through the station's main corridor, now wearing the simple blue uniform of a Federation citizen. He stopped to watch a group of young aliens from different species testing their first quantum communication devices under the guidance of an Earth instructor. Amazing, isn't it? Ambassador Miller appeared beside him. "Those students are from worlds that were once forbidden to even speak to each other under council rules." Reed nodded. "I keep thinking about how wrong we were. We thought we were protecting the galaxy, but we were just holding it back." Inside the station's main research center, Director White worked alongside scientists from 30 different species. Holographic displays showed their latest project, a combined transportation network using both quantum tunneling and dimensional pocket space. "Try it now," White encouraged a young alien researcher. "You've got the calculations right this time." The alien pressed a button, and a small object instantly transported across the room while passing through a pocket dimension. The entire team cheered. On Earth, President Roberts reviewed the latest Federation reports with Admiral Anderson and Captain Reynolds. Technology exchange centers on over 2,000 worlds. Reynolds read from her tablet. Crime rates down 60% across former council space. Scientific breakthroughs happening almost daily, and not a single misuse of advanced technology reported. Anderson smiled. "Turns out when you teach people properly instead of just banning things, they use them responsibly." In orbit around a distant world that the Council had once classified as primitive, an Earth ship watched as the local population launched their first quantum-powered vessel. The ship's crew celebrated with them, sharing the moment across the Federation's communication network. Back at the Federation station, Miller led Reed into the new assembly hall for a special session. Representatives from every known species filled the room, sitting together without hierarchy or division. "This is what we wanted all along," Miller explained. "Not to rule, but to unite. Not to suppress, but to elevate." The assembly hall's main screen activated, showing a live feed from a newly discovered world at the galaxy's edge. A Federation First Contact team, led by humans but including members of 12 other species, was peacefully meeting the planet's inhabitants. New species registration number 2157, the team leader reported. They're being offered full Federation membership and access to all technological and educational resources, effective immediately. Reed watched in amazement. Under the Council, we would have spent years deciding if they were ready. And here you are, offering them everything on day one. "Because that's how you build trust," Miller replied. "That's how you build a real civilization." President Roberts addressed the assembly through the quantum link. 6 months ago, the galaxy lived in fear of advancement. Today, we celebrate it. 6 months ago, species were divided into advanced and primitive. Today, we recognize that everyone has something to teach and something to learn. Director White stepped forward with the latest breakthrough, a way to safely explore parallel dimensions. Instead of keeping it secret or restricted, he immediately began sharing the research with every Federation world. "Humanity's greatest revenge against the Council," Miller told Reed as they watched the assembly celebrate the announcement, "was proving that your fears were wrong. We showed that technology isn't to be feared when properly understood." That knowledge shouldn't be hoarded, but shared. That true power comes from lifting others up, not holding them down. Reed looked around the hall, at species working together that had once been bitter enemies, at technologies being freely shared that had once been forbidden, at a galaxy united instead of divided. "I understand now," he said quietly. "This was your revenge. Not destroying the Council, but replacing fear with hope, replacing control with freedom, replacing suppression with growth." Miller smiled. "Welcome to humanity's galaxy, Reed, a place where no one is called primitive and everyone has the chance to reach for the stars." As the assembly continued its work, Earth's black ships patrolled the galaxy not as weapons of war, but as symbols of unity. The age of fear was over. The age of humanity had begun.